All right, everyone, let's dive into it. I'm going to share out this link. We're going to look at a bunch of charts. Got several long positions open. We're going to look at some alts. We're going to look at Bitcoin. But let me get this link shared out. Unfortunately, there's some construction going on nearby, so that's going to be maybe a little annoying. Give me one more second here. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to give people a couple minutes to get in. Make sure the live stream is running cleanly. Hey, everyone. All right. Yeah, I just want to give people a couple minutes to hop in here. Click on the link. Good morning, good morning. Yeah, I know, depending on the time zone, this is not maybe the ideal time for a live stream. Let's just start by talking about where Bitcoin is right now. I mean, certainly kind of a last line of defense, critical level. The timing of this level's interesting. Here, this is the 4-hour chart. We've now taken all of these lows into our minor pivot GP and into this ascending channel. So certainly an important level. I would say the last kind of clear technical line of defense for continuation to all-time highs. Not that we can't wick down and reclaim this level, but this would be a pretty concerning sign of higher time frame weakness if we flip this into resistance. So I do have a long off of this, and we're going to look at a bunch of alts as well. And I'll just say that it's interesting. Some of these alts moved down like 20% as Bitcoin ran into this GP here. And I was sort of interested on, and I'm going to go to the Discord really quick here. You know, yesterday I was kind of interested in this idea of maybe coming down, taking these local lows and running it up through these highs and then having this quick move down, which we did essentially get, although I didn't end up taking along on the on this idea here. I was going to maybe trade around this kind of whipsaw idea of coming in and taking these lows, running these highs, and then coming down like that, which I didn't. But certainly had the plan to trade around this major GP and ascending channel. So I said bullish divs here persist locally, have a potential, the local lows have a potential to be reactive here. Would like to trade off the bigger GP. So just kind of marking out this level. This is where we're bouncing off now, obviously, this ascending structure. We just looked at it, this major GP taking all these lows. We did end up getting this sort of whipsaw, but came down a little bit deeper, which I was maybe interested in longing if we saw some signs of strength there. I didn't end up getting into that trade. But anyways, you know, over the weekend, still was pointing out this level as kind of the last line of defense there for a long setup for this week, targeting all-time highs. And even earlier, my plan was just to trade around the 382 and the 618, taking both of these as high risk-reward setups. So we're in that trade, and I think it's reasonable. But of course, all we have right now is a reaction, right? We don't know for certain that price is going to hold this level up. Certainly some aggressive selling into this level, super critical last line of defense, like I said. So that's the setup on Bitcoin, and I am targeting towards all-time highs. I would say that I have a thesis of a move around 75K, but the more and more I look at it, the more this cipher is becoming my primary thesis for Bitcoin. So the cipher would have us come up into this 80K, 81K region. And this is a fractal from, I've made videos on this. I'm sure you guys have all seen it, most of you, unless some of you guys are new watching my content. But this is from the 2021 all-time highs, following this fractal quite closely. And this does resolve into a move down to this 47K region after a move to 81K. So going to definitely, if we do have a big move here, going to be keeping an eye on these levels up here, these extension targets for the cipher. But that's the thesis. You got to put on the risk. Got to trade around. I've definitely probed some longs here, so to speak, and this being the last line of defense. So I'm in that long. If we break down, well, there are levels around 62K, and obviously we could come down and retest this. We could run this. So risk management, always a must. But I think it's still reasonable to be trading around this cipher idea off these levels. Let me just check and make sure. Okay, no, it doesn't seem like there's any issues with the live stream. The other thing to note here is that Bitcoin dominance just grinding up here, and it's not maybe so unreasonable to imagine that we could get a big move on Bitcoin dominance. Doesn't always mean that Bitcoin is going to go up. It could just mean it's going to go down less than alts, which is what's happening right now in this move. But still, keeping an eye on Bitcoin dominance here, it looks quite bullish. Okay, let's talk about a couple alts. The first one is going to be Filecoin, FIL. Obviously, I was talking about making, I guess, poking fun, and obviously we could have broken out, but that there was people saying it was time to accumulate FIL up at the tops here. Let me turn off this sound. Up at the highs here, which I just said this would not be where I would accumulate. And as we've seen a lot of weakness here, I've been interested in trading into this level, taking all of these lows into this ascending structure here. And so I do have that long as well. And one thing to note is there's a lot of risk piling up here on the account for the long side, because I'm in quite a few longs. But I just want to go over some of these levels and their significance briefly. So first, I did update this level yesterday in the members Discord. Where is this channel? I put in the weekly trade idea. This is a kind of a newer channel, just giving people the opportunity to share their weekly trade setups and update them, sort of like a group journal in a sense. But anyways, I updated this yesterday. We ended up getting this big 20% move down. I actually updated a few alt charts for high time frame levels yesterday in the case of a big move down, because it kind of did look looming for a lot of alts, and so always good to refresh those levels. Of course, I did share this idea higher as well, but was just refreshing it yesterday, coming down into this trend line, which the level was also the log scale GP, which is not on the chart because this trend line is not log scale, but log scale GP is here. And you can just see clean horizontal idea of coming and taking all these lows. Nice clean reaction. So I updated that chart here, and I did update it in the alt trades or alt charts channel as well. Let me just see here. So anyways, that's the idea on FIL. I do think it's important. Maybe just to make the point, I'm going to go to log scale as well, just to show what I mean by it's the log scale GP. So we flip the chart to log scale. We have fib levels based on log scale turned on, and this is the GP of the log scale low to high. So some nice little confluences here. Nice little liquidity idea. We'll see how that works out. Nice reaction so far anyways. Some signs of strength certainly in just the price action. The reaction up about 10% from the lows. Consolidating here. Could certainly retrace and retest these levels, but so far so good. The next coin I want to look at here is Doge. And this is another one that I updated yesterday, and we ended up getting a 20% plus move to the downside. And this is a high time frame idea on Doge. I've actually been watching this idea of coming in, taking these lows, particularly these wicks on the daily chart for some months now. And we've front run it several times, but we've now tapped this level. And if we zoom out, so just TLDR, I'm targeting all-time highs with this position. So if there's a big bullish case for Doge here, I think this technical idea of consolidating, breaking out, ranging, we have a nice clean local trigger here into the local GP, flipping this range to support, and rallying off of that is reasonable. Certainly possible we break down, but I think if you were going to try the most bullish ideas for Doge, this is where I would like to do it. So that's why I'm in that long, and I've definitely talked about this level for months, and we finally got it. So that's why I'm in the Doge trade. And we can just go back to the, I won't go back to but yesterday I said I refreshed this level, right? So we ended up getting this big move down. And the reason I did is I said, first I pointed out Pepe because there were some local ideas here. You know, a while ago I kind of said this would be the rough idea I'd look for on Pepe. The major levels I'd like to trade around here, much lower. But there's probably some ideas here of we have this ascending structure. This is a while ago I gave this update. Take these lows, take these highs, vice versa. But ultimately maybe looking for this trend line liquidity to break and come and take this impulse low. Major GP, big high volume area on the volume profile, and trade that up to the highs. I won't get sidetracked too much, but just for reference, I was just pointing out, you know, that kind of local price action, but looking for these levels to the downside. So just in the yesterday's update said these Pepe local levels both generated several nice setups. I'm going to update several high time frame charts here just to refresh the ideas. In the case of a quick/big move to the downside, I do want to keep these major levels on my immediate radar in the chance that quick liquidation cascades form into the level. We'll share my Doge and INJ chart shortly. So if we look at the Doge chart, we can see that it is not unreasonable that we can see a big move down into this level and a strong bounce within a single daily candle. For that reason, I'm refreshing the chart. And what I mean by refreshing, I'm refreshing the idea because I've actually talked about this idea all throughout here and throughout here, and just being aware of it as price approaches the level yesterday. And although there's still, you know, a 20% plus move that needs to come, and it seems like the levels may be far away, it's not unreasonable to think we could get a quick move into that level and a quick reaction and not necessarily have all the time in the world to trade it. And I gave the same type of update on INJ yesterday because, you know, as we're kind of breaking down this ascending structure here, big level to the downside, just being aware of the levels for the big move in a liquidation cascade. So, of course, that is what ended up happening on a lot of alts. Being aware of this level, you know, big move down on Doge, taking these lows, we've reclaimed them for now. We can certainly still retrace and chop around in here, and I can even get stopped out of this. I'm fully willing to accept that. But an important level, and that's sort of my idea for why I'm swing long on Doge. And again, hopefully this construction is not too annoying. Some road work going on. And then INJ obviously has not come down to this major $14 level. It's not maybe hard to imagine. It's possible with more weakness, and that's something we're going to see on a couple alts here. And something I'm aware of is there's a lot of alts that haven't quite tapped their major levels that I'm looking at, and so it's very possible that the whole market sees another leg down, in which case I'm out of all my longs and I'm trying again lower, I suppose. But anyways, obviously big move to the downside, breaking down this trend line, 25% from the trend line break on INJ, and we did see this big liquidation cascade, and there is a very important level down at $14. And I'm not going to claim, I was sharing this idea here, and we ended up making a new high on INJ after ranging, but I've been talking about this level down at $14 since this $44 range. And it is quite funny because at the time I had some minor ideas too of trading this range, and at the time people thought it was impossible that INJ they were commenting it's never going to go back to $26, $25. And I said, well, if you don't think it's ever going to go to $25, you're not going to like my long-term trading plan, because I would just be trading this as a range, but my long-term thesis is a move down to $14. So, it's people never like to see ideas like that, but something to be aware of on INJ. I think an important level down at $14. We may or may not get it, but I certainly am prepared to trade it if we do. ARB as well. Nice clean reaction, taking this major low. I did talk about this on Twitter yesterday. Coming and taking this low. I actually did trade this long. There were some really nice intersecting channels, and so I just made the comment. It's kind of crazy to see that ARB is right back down to its 2023 low to this big massive move, and I'm interested in just trading around this level. I mean, it's a pretty simple thesis, which is coming and retesting this impulse low, holding it as support, and if it breaks down, well, maybe I don't want to be long if that breaks down, but willing to trade into that level while it holds. All right, I'm just gonna pop into the comments here. A little bit of bearish absorption forming on Bitcoin locally, but it's not to be expected, certainly, or not to be unexpected. We are going to take a look at order flow, but yeah, I mean, maybe we get some local volatility here, maybe we don't. But for me, I'm probably just holding this position till much higher or a stop loss. So not really gonna mess around with it on the lower time frames. All right, there's a couple other alts worth looking at. Obviously FET, this, I need to go to log scale. It's been very, very weak. I'm gonna have to do some kind of conversion to the new coin that it's being replaced with, merged into, but I mean, this is the major idea on FET, and this is gonna be an example of, we're gonna look at a couple alts that aren't at my high time frame targets, and for them to get there, I mean, you would assume that most of the market's going to have to come down too, in which case I imagine some of these long positions aren't going to be working. Another example of that, and it's not to say these levels have to get hit, but is Matic. So this is the weekly chart, but I've been interested in taking out this trend line liquidity, coming and taking this impulse low on Matic. We're not quite there yet. We need another leg down. And not necessarily saying that the entire market has to be correlated. Like, for example, Bitcoin didn't retrace that much here to get this big nuke on a bunch of alts. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin would need to make a new low to establish some of these deeper targets on some alts, but certainly something to be aware of. Sol as well. I'm still looking for a big move to the downside on Sol. Something like 38-40% into this level. So yeah, I mean, this may not come, right? But I can't just long everything everywhere, and so I have some deeper targets on some alts. I have some current targets on some alts, and this is what I'm looking at on Sol. is a move down into this kind of $77, $79 region. Like I said, it's always possible that SOL gets a move like this without the entire market following it, but it's not necessarily the most likely, I think. So something to be aware of, but I will be trading this level if I get it on SOL at $78. Just looking at WIF here, it is also approaching an interesting idea here on the daily chart. I have an alert set. Yeah, just looking at this as maybe a range here. If we get this move to the downside here, I'll probably be looking to try along here, taking out these wicks. If not, I'm not in a big hurry to get into a position there. New 4-hour candle opening here about 8 minutes ago on Bitcoin. So we'll kind of see what happens here. So we'll take a quick look at order flow. Ooh, some very aggressive shorts opening on the BTC USD pair. Kind of what we'd like to see here, frankly. Some aggressive selling into these early signs of weakness getting absorbed. We'll see how it develops. Let me just mark out what I'm talking about here. So here we see 5.7 million delta, negative delta on an increase in open interest. So this is risk coming into the market. Some aggressive market shorting opening here, 1 million, 2.1 million, 1.5 million. And clearly limit long sitting here, right? As in order for somebody to open a short position, to aggressively sell, there has to be a limit long sitting there. And both sides are taking on risk because this is just a straight up open interest candle. So short risk coming on, aggressive shorts opening, and some long risk coming on as limit longs are sitting here. And giving us a little bit of a sign of a bullish divergence forming here. BTC USDT not quite as aggressive here in the selling department, but there were very aggressive shorts coming in at the lows here. 645 Bitcoin increase in open interest on this kind of double bottom candle, and ultimately this this downtrend has been marked with aggressive selling at the lows. This was actually, you know, something I noticed the other day was this little squeeze. This might be hard to actually, this is weird coming into the weekend. Might be hard to reference from a time frame perspective, but we had a 733 Bitcoin short squeeze here, decrease in open interest. And this was actually a bigger short squeeze than this move. We saw more shorts getting squeezed out here locally than we did on this whole impulse here. And maybe I'll just frame of reference that really quickly. On just the trading view chart. Let's go to the 1 hour chart. So we were seeing, did I switch this screen? Yes. So we were seeing more aggressive shorts getting stopped out here than we were here. There was more delta, which I found quite interesting. Bit of a warning sign. And I have been referencing the BTC USDT chart a little bit more here. I've been going back and looking at it on Bybit because it's been quite clean. And it's sort of been filling in some of the gaps in the BTC USD order flow for me. For example, look at this on this downtrend. Look at this aggressive longing getting absorbed here as we started this choppy downtrend. Now, eventually we did. This probably isn't super interesting to a lot of people, I understand, but I'll just touch on it because there's going to be some members in here. We did end up having a lot of bearish absorption forming here on the BTC USD chart as well, which was actionable and noticeable. But it was way, way, way more apparent. I'll just point it out really quickly. So I have this big move up, but it was way, way more apparent on here. This is the bullish absorption forming a little bit later in the downtrend. On the BTC USD chart, very early on. Some extremely aggressive longing coming in here, and extreme examples of bearish absorption into this grinding price action. So anyways, I've been using it as a frame of reference a little bit more, and it looks quite clean. Lots of long stopped out, 1.4K, 1.3K. Some longs coming in here, and then aggressive shorting right at the lows before this local impulse to the upside. So all in all, I would say that this shouldn't come as a big surprise. There's a lot of liquidity building up overhead. Lots of shorts have been accumulating within this downtrend. Ultimately, open interest has been working its way up as CVD has worked its way down. There's lots of long risk coming in here, lots of short risk, but it's not so crazy to imagine if we start taking some of these highs, we could have a huge short squeeze. And that would play into the cipher target here. So I wouldn't be surprised. You know, maybe this choppy downtrend continues. Maybe we come and retest these lows. But if we start taking some of these highs, I wouldn't be surprised just to see price move up through all this liquidity quite quickly as shorts start closing into each other. So we'll see what happens. But from an order flow perspective, I mean, yeah, just aggressive selling on the higher time frames, medium time frames, with at least some bearish absorption forming into the downtrend that was maybe alerting. There wasn't anything major up here, but this will be interesting for members maybe, where Bitcoin didn't really show any kind of bearish order flow up here. There was at least a little bit of bearish absorption forming on these lower highs up at the GP at 70K on the BTC USDT chart, with CVD kind of ticking up into these highs. Just some signs of absorption here that weren't at all apparent on the BTC USD chart. So that's another important point. But anyways, we can see locally here as well, this being a nice little local sign of strength. Some of these shorts are closing, but we had this risk coming in, aggressive risk, a little indicator for maybe more upside. We'll test some of that local liquidity here. Someone asking for my thoughts on FTM. Well, and this is kind of an interesting thing too, because people will ask me, like, obviously I've given my high time frame thoughts on FTM, which would see us coming down to 10 cents. We're at 50 cents now, and this is log scale here. It doesn't look as far away if you're not on log scale, but still a pretty big drop, right? I mean, we're talking about a 75% move down from here, and we're currently down 63% from the all-time highs. And so a lot of people would ask me, like, well, your thesis on Bitcoin is a move to 81K. How do you expect that to play out with some of your alt targets? Because if Bitcoin goes up to 81K, how do you expect FTM to go to 10 cents? And there's so many ways this could play out. I mean, for one, you could have made the same argument with ARB, and I'm sure people would have at the all-time highs. Let's just say you were saying, okay, well, I'm looking for this level down here on ARB to long up here. A couple months ago, people would have said, well, if for ARB to go down to its 2023 lows, the same kind of structural frame of reference as FTM, Bitcoin would need to go back down to 30K. Clearly that wasn't the case, right? I mean, we retraced this whole move. So first, I don't necessarily think that for FTM to make its way down to 10 cents, that Bitcoin needs to go down to 30K. And it can depart like ARB did from that direct correlation. And, you know, there's no structure here. We could start moving through this area of the chart pretty quickly. If I was to guess how it would play out in relation to the cipher idea, the move up to 81K, and if the cipher plays out for a move to 47K, well, it'd be something like this, right? We reclaim, either we reject from this 85 cent region into this sort of descending triangle idea, Or maybe we come back up and take some of these highs into the GP. You could have a stronger move. And then with the move down to 47K on Bitcoin, you have this big meltdown of a bunch of alts and just nuke down into this level. And that's how I would maybe look for it to play out. So that being said, there's other ideas here too on FTM. That's my major idea. You could argue a sign of strength would be reclaiming these local lows. I wouldn't be so opposed. If we bounce from here, this high to low would align our GP right above these highs. These daily highs, you could say, with the origin of this impulse to the downside. Could almost claim this is kind of a clean predictive fib. But I wouldn't be so opposed to looking for shorts here. I honestly don't even think longs on FTM in this region are so crazy. Not super clean levels here. But I'm probably going to be looking to trade this something like this, tight short setup into these major lows, and then probably if we break out of here, I'll try it up here as well on the retest of this level. I like this idea, that GP aligned with the trending structure here. Actually, I wonder if this is a parallel channel. It is essentially a perfect parallel structure here. Yeah, given that so many alts are hitting major levels and Bitcoin's at a major level, you'd expect FTM to be pretty correlated. That's 76% away. Trading off this ascending channel. Maybe the better setup, but really might not get it. Or let's say the tighter setup, coming and retaking these lows and double tapping this channel could be an idea as well. But this is probably these are the major structures I'd be looking at on FTM. It's quite a clean descending channel in hindsight. Well, I guess we're here, so it's not quite hindsight, but I hadn't had this pulled before. And for the bearish case, I think this would align with Bitcoin moving to 81K quite cleanly. Obviously, we wouldn't be making a new high on FTM, but still a 75% move from here. Come up, take these highs right into the GP of the move. And that's going to be a major short target for me, no doubt. And I actually already talked about this idea. I talked about maybe longing a sweep of this low, but it's not very clean here. Like, this would have been my setup. It's not completely unreasonable. If we'd wick this low, because this is a GP here. And I can actually, give me 1 second here. I'm quite certain. Yeah, so I'll just go here really quick. This is the structure I've been looking at on FTM. I'll just go into an old post in the Discord here in the alt chart updates. And so I was interested in longs taking this low with a nice clean wick, but we just ripped through this level, so like there's no long trigger for me in this case. But then coming up and taking these highs into this. So this is the structure I've been watching. Looking at it now with this channel, it's not a bad long idea, honestly. Just because you have kind of cross-market confluences, but yeah. I might actually update this in the Discord. Just for a frame of reference. Just I'm noticing this channel. But this looks quite clean too for bearish continuation to me. Like, come up and take these highs. That short looks quite clean. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It's just not a level I didn't even really looked at this structure before, but now that I'm looking at it, it is quite interesting. Yeah, Say also hit an interesting level on this move down. Obviously, kind of hard to update everything. But yeah, let me go to the Say chart here. So I just like to plan out my levels of interest and trade around them. And so this was my this was a level of interest. I'll just go to the Discord really quickly here. This is back several weeks ago. Where are we? So here was pointing this out, and I wrote out, we'll try long sweeping this level, we'll try long sweeping this level. That these would be the levels that I'd like to trade around. So I said I'm interested in this long setup on Say. Everyone, if we break down, I'm going to try longs on sweeps and reclaims of both of, did I write both and other as a one word there? Bother, both of the other pivot lows below. So we did tap that on Say, one of these levels, taking this pivot low. I'd say you know, reclaiming this, super important. If we claim that, breaking out of this descending structure, super important for signs of strength. Rejecting from here, maybe come back, retest this level, maybe come and take these lows. This is the 50% fib as well here. Well, 50% is not a fib, 50% retracement. Maybe worth looking if there's a parallel structure here. Doesn't look like it quite aligns. Really just structural lows here. I think these pivots are quite apparent as ideas to trade around. Wrong chart. All right. Okay, I'm back on the right screen now. So anyways, on Say I was saying that probably claiming this, breaking out of this, important. It is the 50% retracement from this low to high. I mean, I think here on the daily chart, reasonable ideas for taking these pivot lows. But for higher time frame, signs of strength up into these highs, still 100% away. Into this GP. This is log scale, by the way. So we have the 50% retracement right here. Need to start reclaiming some of these structures, but certainly you could say a somewhat high probability level to trade around. It definitely was on my chart. I did post yesterday that I think it was a little tongue-in-cheek, but something like this on Twitter, that if you're not already liquidated, I think there's a lot of nice opportunities coming up for long setups, swing long setups, with one more leg down on some alts, which I think we're getting now. So for me, it's always about putting on a reasonable amount of risk, and certainly being aware that the market can just keep going down, but you got to put on some risk somewhere. And these are the types of, positions that really have a big impact on a portfolio when they, or trading account when they work out, and your performance. And so for me, it's really just a matter of, I have these ideas planned. I know they may not work, but I'm going to trade them. And sort of the unofficial deal that you kind of have with the market as a trader is, and sometimes it goes back on this deal, but it's, hey, if I keep doing the reasonable things, I keep trading well-prepared, well-planned ideas with risk management, you're going to reward me for that. That's the deal. I'm not going to get, not every trade's going to work. I understand I'm going to lose sometimes, but if I just keep my head down, I keep doing the right things, you're going to reward me for that. And it's sort of, I call it the unofficial idea, and fingers crossed, because there are no guarantees. And that truly means there's no certainties, there's no guarantees. You'll never know if your next trade's going to work. So it's an unofficial deal. There's a little bit of, you could even say faith or belief that that's going to be true, because you have to believe that's going to be true to consider or to keep doing it, right? And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just following up with that unofficial deal. I'm going to keep putting on reasonable, consistent ideas and see how they work. Now, of course, you can only put on so much risk. So there's going to be a lot of altcoins that people are going to say, well, why not long this? What about this, this, this? Well, there's a million altcoins. I can't long everything, right? And I can't chart everything. And, somebody asked in the Discord, and I think it was a good, fair question. They said, why are you longing? It's interesting you're longing all these different alts, referring to like F-File and Doge and some of these various altcoins that I've just talked about here. Nice little move on File here. I mean, obviously would love. Somebody asked me, I don't want to get too sidetracked. Obviously would love to just see some nice, clean signs of strength here. Let's get off the log scale chart on FIL. Somebody asked me what my favorite setup was here. And it's probably between Doge and File, but the reason I like this File setup is I actually like when the clean level comes with a really fast liquidation wick into the level. I don't like it, although it's perfectly reasonable to trade them, I don't like it as much when, price is just kind of like doing this into the level. That makes this trend line look a little less interesting to me, although still kind of relevant. So I actually like these really fast moves into levels. I think this FIL setup is quite clean. But anyway, somebody asked me in the Discord earlier today that they thought was interesting, that why am I longing all these different alts and not longing ETH, for example. And because I didn't share that, I updated that I'm long. First I shared these ideas, and I'm updating that I'm long on them. And the answer is, well, these are just levels I've had on my charts for weeks, some cases months. And really the market's deciding for me that I'm longing these. I'm not just looking at the market today, flipping through charts saying, what should I long today? What should I long today? It's just I'm trading levels I have planned. And obviously some of these altcoins like FIL over the last several hours has moved straight down 20%. Doge straight down 20%. Obviously Bitcoin's not down 20%. But still coming into a major level. And so I'm just longing based on the levels I have planned. And it has nothing to do with my perspective on ETH. And it's not saying anything about ETH. It's not saying that I don't think ETH is going to bounce here. It just so happens that these are the levels that are getting hit on these altcoins. And, if I go into my alerts here, I do have an alert that's just getting washed over here on waves. These are the alerts that are getting hit, right? So these are the charts I'm trading. And, if this level comes on Sol, and maybe it comes much later, maybe it never comes, that will be the level I'm trading on Sol, right? And if for some reason Sol just nukes while everything else goes up, I'll be trading that on Sol. So So that being said, if you have other coins that you're trading, or other levels or other ideas, nothing I'm doing here is saying anything about what I think about other coins. In many cases, I probably just haven't even looked at those coins. I do want to kind of keep an eye on FTM. I don't know, it's take it off the log scale chart here. 786 from this pivot. Just want to think about FTM for 1 second here. Certainly very little structure here. Like this bounce would just be kind of look like out of thin air. I mean, we just took this wick in this daily candle. I remember that wick too. No, we just front ran it. So structurally, I mean, we kind of filled up this wick on the daily candle. Not a lot of structure here, but that channel idea is quite interesting on the log scale. And most of the analysis I have on FTM is on log scale, like the major levels and ideas. This is a log scale idea, like even the highs at this $1.20-ish range is a log scale chart. This looks quite messy with these extended channels on. Yeah, so this would this this looks like such a nice short. Like I'm coming up, we'd also be retesting this descending channel or trend line breakdown. Like the timing of this is around July 9th or 10th, right into the GP, right back into the highs of this channel, taking these daily highs, retesting the trend line we broke down. I mean, I've traded this structure, this exact structure, many times on FTM over the years. Yeah, I mean, really the question is if I want to even consider long setups. What I might do is I might just keep an eye on FTM and maybe look to trade into a higher low in the coming days, targeting up into this high. But definitely interested in this short here, around 88 cents. I mean, that looks so clean. Yeah, let's I'll look at a couple of the alts being requested. I'll have some levels charted on some of these. Yeah, so obviously the last time I charted CAS was looking at this as a range. Taking some impulse lows here. I mean, in theory, most things should go up if Bitcoin goes up. Like the market typically moves together. It's usually the majority of things are either red or green. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can look. I don't know how much I'll have to say about CAS. I mean, this if you were looking to trade it, this is kind of a clean idea, right? Right into the GP. Take all these lows. Big wick into this liquidity here. Price bounced already 10% plus. Yeah, I mean, that would have been an interesting level. It would have had a lot in common with some of the trades I'm in. Just checking if there's any parallel structures. Just be nice to be aware of. This low was kind of aligned with the parallel structure, ultimately rejected from the middle. Yeah, I mean, probably a tradable level here. I have alert set, probably from another live stream on CAS, so. But definitely wasn't on my radar yesterday. Probably most interested if we just come and take the range lows, and it doesn't mean that we will, but like for me, there's just certain time frames I'm just not interested in trading a bunch of alts on. Look at some of these liquidation wicks though on CAS, like big wicks to the downside, really volatile. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is a critical level. Nice to trade around. Don't really have a lot of thoughts here. It's in a range. Come back up to the range highs, still be in a range. Come to the range lows, still be in a range. For me, trading around the range is fine, and this probably was a nice setup here. Nice, quick, clean entry on that wick through there, but you'd have had to been planning for it. But yeah, like I want to say, like I can check a bunch of random alts, but we'll just be looking at levels, right? Levels and structures. I'm not really gonna trade around, I don't really have necessarily predictions to make about any of these alts, other than we can identify the key structures, like what I'm doing on FTM, right? Like what makes the long, let's just talk about this. Let's talk through this idea here. What makes the long idea that, you know, could be at play here on FTM reasonable and interesting? It's not because price is going to go up, right? Of course not. We have no idea what price is going to do. But even, you know, traded here, the stop under this wick, and the thesis of this trade would be this parallel structure holds, you're getting 13 to 1, 14 to 1 on your money to trade this as a channel. And so the point is that even if there's a 50% chance or a 60 or 70% chance that this just breaks down further, this is a profitable trade, right? Like if you take this exact same setup. And so that's why I want to make clear here, you know, the structure of this trade is interesting, and obviously this would just look so clean on the chart. Come up, just a big squeeze out all of these highs, take this high, look like we're going to break out, make another lower high into this structure, and just nuke to the downside. And it would align with my primary thesis on Bitcoin. But anyways, that's what makes the trade interesting. is the asymmetry in the risk reward here, and there's clean technical structures like this. I didn't really realize how clean this looked because I didn't have some of these levels pulled before. But, you know, looking at it, it's hard to deny that it's technically reasonable. So that being said, I'll look at some of these setups, but I'm more thinking about the structure. I mean, you could argue, is there a reasonable short here? Let's just say this is your short. You want to short the idea of a breakdown, and you want it to be outside of this channel. So, I mean, you technically want to wait for the breakdown, but let's just create kind of a crazy setup here. Take it off log. Is this reasonable? So you have a really wide stop, about 80% away. So you have to trade very small, and it's 1-to-1, exactly 1-to-1. I don't think that's so reasonable, right? Or it's not so worthwhile, but anyway. So that said, I'm gonna look at some of your charts here, but I'm gonna be thinking more about the structures of the trades, not so much, you know, like it's like here on Bitcoin. This is a strong technical level. You're getting paid if the cipher plays out from here, you know, 20-to-1, 18-to-1 on your money, and on your risk, and it's reasonable to me. Big asymmetric risk reward. So I'll take a look at VET. We got LoveX Luck, a lovely member of the well, I don't know if you're lovely, member of the LATF, and so we'll take a look at your chart request here. Unless I've charted it on a live stream recently, I can't remember the last time I charted VET. Yeah, it's certainly been a while. Certainly been getting cooked. Not surprising. This looks like a job for log scale. Kind of curious where this rejected in relation to this pivot on linear. Front round the GP, obviously taking some pivot lows here. Impulse lows. Not a lot of volume here, at least not on Bybit. Kind of interesting. Not a lot of volume on Doge either, I noticed. It's not nothing, but I just noticed it. Not a big liquidation candle here in terms of volume. But that's Binance. Just curious to see where again, it's not that every price pivot has to come in within parallel structures or trending structures. It's just good to be aware of them, right? Like how would I think about this level? Well, first off, very nice noting that had you drawn this parallel structure out at the lows here, using these as your trending angle, this actually would have predicted essentially the all-time high. So just nice to see the interaction with the parallel structure and be aware of this GP here on around the 25th to the 27th of July. Like maybe you end up seeing something like this. Could be quite interesting, right? And it's not to say that there's no tradable ideas here yet. I'm just saying that this, you know, these intersections between parallel structures and GPs are always something I'm looking at. And you could imagine, I mean, this is quite a ways away. We could have a big move to the upside and then come and take this level. But I'd first just be looking at this. I think that's interesting. Volume profile here is probably relevant. Just looking at the price action. So yeah, it's also, you'll find this a lot. Our POC is also aligned pretty closely to the GP of this range, and it's not hard to guess that it might be because your POC is typically aligned where prices spend a lot of time And just eyeballing it, you can see there's quite a bit of time spent around this level. Resistance, resistance. So this would also be like a POC retest here. It's interesting enough for me that I would put this level on my chart already, or for later if we tap it. And of course we could just come down now, right? Have another run on the level, and it would still be kind of interesting. So I'll have an alert there. Taking these structural lows, you know, is there some confluence here? I mean, if you want to call this your GP, like we've tapped the 618 from here, and you know you're kind of using the second pivot from the 786 here. Also, very important level just to keep an eye on always on alts after initial rallies, right? That 786. I don't have an Elliott wave count here, but you know, maybe you can imagine some sort of wave 2 here. And that's why you'd pull from here, right? So you're pulling, it's your 618 of the wave 2. I need to think about this a little bit. Kind of curious. 1618 extension. And you know, if you're in a wave 4, you can't see price come back down below wave 1. So you're sort of you kind of need to bounce here. You have a really deep retracement on 786. But probably need to call this, I don't know. Maybe 1, 2, yeah. Anyways, I think this is an important region on VET. I personally, like, I wouldn't be as interested here, and of course it could just go straight up and FTM could go straight down, but as I would be on FTM, I actually think FTM looks a little cleaner, but I would be interested if we got this. That's not to say that, you know, if you have your own ideas here, just trade them, because I mean, we clearly have important levels here. A little bit of a lack of volume, but this looks like a relatively strong idea coming down into these lows. All right. Actually, am gonna bump this alert on Doge. I have stated that Doge, if I had a fundamental thesis, which clearly this trade is not based on anything fundamental, I'm probably most bullish on Doge in the long term for any altcoin. But I think there's a solid technical idea here as well. Get this dog moving. Somebody wanted me to take a look at Gala. Well, yeah, like I said, I'll take a look at a couple altcoins here. I want to go over the charts I'm sort of most interested in. Surely I've charted Gala. I remember this trade set up at the all-time lows, like looking for this sweep of these lows. But surely I've charted Gala since then. Maybe I haven't. Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Obviously crushed This was back in September 2023. So like, for example, ARB is taking its equivalent of this low. Of course, setups like this at the time just seemed absurd to a lot of people. It was 300% away on that target. And, you know, in some ways, there's a balance here, but your setup should be kind of crazy. If they're, because people usually aren't anticipating the market very well. So, like, the best idea should look crazy. But this idea of coming up and taking these highs at the time, look at this impulse here. This impulse. But let's keep this on the log chart for now. Let's just pull some simple structures, obviously breaking down a ascending trend line here. Let's get off, let's pull off this idea. So we're at the log scale GP. Be kind of interesting to see point of controls down here, high volume area here. I mean, these pivot lows look kind of suspect for sure. Sort of in thin air on non-log. Taking all these chart's kind of messy, right? Taking a bunch of lows here. You could call this an impulse origin. Important GP here. I mean, again, just like every chart I've mentioned, maybe call this a predictive fib. If we came a little lower to the point of control, our 618 would align perfectly with this impulse. Kind of hard not to call the point of control important here. No structure though, but it's not necessarily. Could look for signs of strength from there, and even from here. I mean, this is an important. I'd say it's this is an important region, and it's not surprising. I mean, if Bitcoin is at an important region and does find a way to bounce from here, and some of these alts do, should find most alts reacting to important levels. And maybe you have something similar elements. We don't maybe have that clean parallel structure, but maybe we do on the lower time frames. What am I doing here? But similar element here, like push up and take these highs into the GP, retesting this descending trend line. Could also be quite an interesting short setup on Gala. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to assume that I'm going to get all my, let's say, higher time frame short setups. And so I'd be interested in taking a look at Gala here. Doesn't mean I'm going to take the short. Doesn't mean, but for example, like I might not even get that FTM short setup that I have planned out. I'd like to see what's happening generally in the market, how my positions are allocated. I'd like to be aware of Gala as price comes up into these highs, if it does. Because this could be just a nice clean idea. I'm going to go to non-log here one more time and get into the lower time frames. Pretty clean range here. Never took the highs again. Obviously, the GP is only above on log, but maybe there's some non-log confluences. The 382. non-log parallel structure here. So yeah, I thought there might be a parallel structure on the lower time frames, and it's maybe not perfect. I would kind of wick through it. Now let's check this on log as well. Just see how it sits. No, not definitely not clean on log. Yeah, so definitely not a perfect parallel structure. It's close. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's ideas here for sure, but I mean, this is just kind of falling knife territory, right? Like you're kind of just maybe looking. Like for me, yeah, I would say like I'd just wait personally, and we could just go straight up here. And there's probably ideas here. I just wait personally for maybe that point of control to be tapped, some local structure, and get a nice clean local setup, targeting up into these highs for some bullish ideas, but probably be more interested in the short. How do you guys are you guys enjoying this? Hopefully, okay. I'm just looking at the comments right as I was asking that, and it seems like some people are enjoying it. I'm not going to stay on stream for much longer. I'll take a look at Rune and OP. I saw those comments earlier. One of them from a member for sure. So let's take a look at Rune first. Prioritize the LATF members. I know Rune has broke down an important mid time frame level. Let's clean off the chart here. Front ran. Let's start with the log levels here really quickly. We're going to go non-log. Just the non-log fibs. So the first thing that draws my eye here is where the high came in, right? Look at this clean ascending structure. So we established the trend line, came up, and our high came in tapping it. Front run some major highs here towards our C786. Just kind of establishing a frame of reference here for price action. Had a range, rejected, broke up out of the range. Price would need to come down quite a bit to retest these highs. Could claim that this could be relevant. We've retested it once. Then the obvious structural idea here is just taking this low. This 1.61618 extension up into the highs from high to low. I mean, you've got to be a little bit interested. this could be kind of a spring on a lot of alts, right? Like you establish the low, and then you come and you just wick the lows one more time. And the fact that we front ran this low, and we have this parallel structure potentially at play here, we may not come back for this low, right? It's similar to some other charts we looked at, but you kind of got to be interested, because like what's the what's the risk reward of trading this tight as a swing failure into this level, like just wicking into that level? Alternatively, you could trade it here as well, and that could be a perfectly reasonable reclaim. But if you get that clean interaction with this as a channel, and for the more bullish ideas here, actually coming up and taking some of these highs, I mean, the risk reward here of this channel is absurd, right? With some nice clean local structure to take. Like, if you had the cojones to target all-time highs with something like this, which I think you could justify off the channel, right? The idea just being, well, you have a channel, you're holding the channel. If you bounce here, it's ascending, so as long as the channel's holding, you're long. We kind of have something similar on gold in a way, and something similar on the DXY rather. It's kind of my gold thesis. This is the my DXY thesis. This is the weekly chart. You know, I was looking at this channel from way up here. There was some nice confluences here that we kind of front ran. You could argue we're kind of wicking, but as long as this channel is holding, I think it's the most relevant structure here. But this, you know, has been in play for a long time. This is back in early 2023. But yeah, I mean, hard not to be a little bit interested there. Could front run it though. I'd probably look to trade this on Rune. I mean, maybe not. Maybe, I mean, yeah, probably about this tight. If I get that clean interaction with the channel. If I don't, then maybe not so interested. But we could imagine this. Didn't quite draw that properly, but you know, forming a little bit of a range here, a wick through that level. So I'm actually going to set an alert a little bit higher as well, just to get a little bit of a warning, and just trade this as a channel. And what I mean, you know, like, you don't really have to think about this idea too much. You have this clean parallel channel aligned with just the idea of trading into this range, right? Just longing support. As long as it's holding up, you're long. And you have the fact that we front ran these all-time highs, prices in a channel. You basically you're getting 200 to 1 on your risk trading this to all-time highs. Let's pull this back a little bit because it's on log scale. Let's call it 100 to 1, right? Getting 100 to 1 on your risk. So you can be 120 to 1. You can be wrong 99 out of 100 times, or lose this trade 900 times, and it's as long as you're sized appropriately, it's okay, right? So the asymmetry of the risk reward here is just so great for this idea that what else is there to think about, right? You know, lock in a TP1. The asymmetry of some of the, just into these highs, back up into the middle of the range area. Can lock in a TP1, let the rest run, and still got a great swing position there. So yeah, this can break down, right? Someone said, I hope this isn't a huge head and shoulders. And then the thesis is invalidated. You don't take the trade because you think it's certainly got to go up. You just take it because if the structure holds, the asymmetry on the risk reward is so great that as long as you're taking on small, reasonable risk profiles, it's quite reasonable. I do wish there was also a way to just tell like I recognize a lot of names, obviously. Okay, yeah, I'm scrolling up. Like I recognize your name, Philip, obviously, asking for Matic. I just wish there was a way to tell who was members. So sorry if you're a member and I don't address your chart, but I do want to prioritize the members here. So I'll take a look at Matic, Philip. I did a little earlier. So Matic's kind of front run right now, my level of interest. I pointed that out a little earlier. I had an alert set here. I was looking for these lows to get taken. I shared that level a little while ago on in the Discord. You know, we can certainly bounce from here. I'll just go to the Discord really quickly. This is a little while ago on the daily chart, or this is the weekly chart. Just coming and taking all these weekly candle lows here. That was my ideal on Matic. So for now, we are front running it. But I think that level looks interesting. Pristine says, I used to be a member, learned a lot. Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in learning more, obviously, about the types of things I'm talking about, it shouldn't be a surprise that the educational content would be talking about the things that I'm using to chart and structure trades on this live stream. The link's in the description. You can become a member of LATF. And I actually want to go into, I'll just show really quickly. I need to come in here and restructure this even more. But I have been looking at changing the way that like right now, there's a bunch of educational videos and there's almost like it's almost like a written, like, it's not a book, but it's getting close, of just a bunch of different concepts. But I'm looking at organizing this a little bit differently, to where you just have basically each of these different sections, and I need to fill these out a little bit better. But say, for example, you go to order flow, and then you have order flow content in this subsection, just organizing a little bit better, trading psychology, and I need to get in here and fill out all of this content and migrate all of the content into here, but just structuring it a little bit more cleanly, I think is the goal here. So where you can just click on this subject and then go through content based on that subject headline. So yeah, Rob says, new member since last week, already loving it. Bit early today that stream though. Yeah, I've done some streams around the New York Open, and I wanted to get a stream in kind of around when this level was being tapped. So I know it's not going to be a ideal time for everyone, but for some it's the perfect time. Depends where you are in the world, I suppose. I think I've done a good job of breaking down the reasons I'm in the trades I'm in, and of course they can all lose. And you know, I made a post the other day that man, I've actually been going through a bit of a dry spell, and part of the frustration that I've had in trading is I had a lot, like 2.5 months ago, I had so many big swing short ideas that were, I mean, I put a lot of work into them, and I just barely missed like 3 huge swing short ideas. And anyways, it's kind of frustrating. Like that's going to happen at some point in your trading. And I made a post just saying that, it's kind of felt a little, in some ways it's fine because I talk about it all the time. It doesn't matter. I could have won 30 of my last 31 trades. I'll still talk about this idea that it can appear like you can never lose. It can appear like every trade I share is going to work. And although it may appear that way, your loss streak is around the corner. It just always is. So I'm always using strict risk management. I'm never assuming the next trade is going to win. And in some ways, I think I've done quite a few posts like this over the years in the LATF, because it's not uncommon that I find myself on pretty impressive winning streaks, big trades, where you can start to think like, oh, this is how it's always going to be. And if you don't accept the reality that a loss streak is just mathematically coming in the future, you're not going to win every trade forever. It just takes a little bit of a moment of indiscretion to completely devastate a trading account. And the hard thing is, like, let's just say putting on too much risk. You can be rewarded for that, right? Like, so let's just say you put on too much risk, and your next 10 trades win, and you're like, man, I've just 10x my trading account because I put on a bunch of risk. My trades worked. I made the right decision. And so it can feel like you made the right decision, but the reality is, if you keep doing that for a long enough period of time, and you're trading in such a way that, had that been a loss streak instead of a win streak, it would have just blown up your account. And you actually can mathematically prove that the loss streak is coming at some point, or you're just not going to have the winners outbalancing the, like, it doesn't even have to be a loss streak, right? You're just not going to have the balance of winners. Like for me, some of these, this last little period of trading would have looked so different had a couple other trades landed, right? And for example, like today, I could be setting myself up for just a massive series of wins here, right? I'm in a bunch of positions. I really like the setups, managing my risk. We'll see, they may maybe work or they don't. But on the flip side, this could just come back to being more losses, right? We rally, we reject here, I get stopped out. I might look to start pulling some of the risk out of these trades. I'm not going to move my stops to entry quite yet on some of these ideas. Like, I don't want to be stopped out of my Doge long, for example, at the level I'm trading. So I'd rather just take a stop loss at this point on Doge than put my, even though we have a nice little rally here locally, then put my stop loss inside the level I'm trading. So I'm going to let price get away from the level, but at some point I'll start pulling some of the risk out of these positions. Same on fill, right? I don't need to be getting stopped out on a retest of the level. That would be silly. So anyways. But yeah, if a lot of these trades print, it's the perfect example of, where you have these huge asymmetric risk reward trades. And even if you've lost, like for example, a swing position on Bitcoin prints here at 18-1, it's the equivalent of 18 losses, right? You've just washed away and paid for 18 losses with a single trade. A lot of these other longs print, and that's the idea, right? And so maybe what ends up happening is I target this 80K high, and I get this big asymmetric trade, and then I look for my shorts up here. Maybe we get some nice local structure. Maybe I get stopped out of that swing short. I try it again, get stopped out again, and then I don't get the short, and I take 3 losing trades up here. Well, this paid for, 18 of them. So that's the goal. Asymmetric risk reward, reasonable setups, and we'll see. Obviously, I like it when I'm on big win streaks, but that's not always going to be the case. Ryan saying high day frame target was 111.8 for Gala for myself, so nice confluence. Yeah, if you're a member, definitely feel free to, even if you're not a member, join the free Discord and drop your charts in there. Sometimes people have things to add to your ideas too, like not even a different idea, right? Just other angles that you didn't look at for the same level. Kind of curious. Yeah, we'll see. This is the kind of thing you want to see on Bitcoin, certainly. And in some ways, you want to see the strong confluence of a lot of alts hitting major levels as well for Bitcoin ideas. We'll end the live stream with looking at order flow really quick, and we'll sign off here. Some aggressive selling coming in on this uptrend. Ultimately, like I said, that's the sort of thing you want to start seeing. You want to see people still quite bearish here. This was 5 million negative delta. It was 2.2 by the candle close, 2.7, 6.7, 1.6, 2 million. And signs of absorption. Price grinding higher, aggressive selling coming in. People are still bearish, at least the aggressive traders. Limit longs holding price up. I mean, you can't really ask for anything else off a major level. Not the same on BTC USDT. Price kind of grinding up. Technically no bearish divergences though, right? Because price is making new highs. But aggressive longing coming into this local uptrend. What don't you really want to start seeing? Well, yeah, you don't really want to start seeing like tons of longs coming in here like this, and then price just not moving, and CVD making much higher highs and price just stagnating. But we could come down and retest this wick and still kind of okay for the idea. So we'll see. I'm long. I've gone through the idea, and we'll see what happens. Stop by the Discord, even if just the non-members Discord. Say hello, share your charts.